With the 2024 election drawing closer, there have been several developments in the electoral landscape. New political parties are vying to make it onto the ballot in next year's election. In addition, about 2 weeks ago, President Cyril Ramaphosa signed the Electoral Amendment Bill, allowing independent candidates to stand for provincial and national elections. So how will these developments advance our democracy going forward into 2024 and beyond? We speak now to newly launched political formations about what to expect from them and what it is that they offer the electorate. We're joined by Xiluva leader Bongani Baloyi, Arise SA leader Mpho Dagada, Build One South Africa deputy leader Nobuntu Webster, as well as Rise Mzansi chief organiser Makashule Gana, who joins us in studio. A very warm welcome to all our guests and thank you very much for your time. Makashule, let's start with you. Perhaps if you could introduce your formation and organisation to our viewers, how should they understand it and what it stands for?
Thanks very much, Dudu, and it's an honor, it's a privilege for us to be here this morning. So Rise Mzansi, aims to build an equal, safe, prosperous and united South Africa. We believe that the project of nation building in South Africa has been abandoned by the existing political players. We stand for active citizenry. We stand with working with communities, in what we do. So the T-shirt that I'm wearing now, it says 2024 is our 1994, and it's important that one puts it in context in case your viewers are asking why this T-shirt. So in how we say things, 1994, we attained our freedom from the oppressive, brutal apartheid regime, and we see 2024 as for us to be able to attain freedom from the sufferings that the South Africans are going through, people living in poverty, people feeling unsafe in their communities, in their homes, in their places of work. And that's why we say we are the ones that we have been waiting for, because from where we are as Rise Mzansi, there's no one that's coming to save South Africa. We have to roll up our sleeves and do our best to ensure that we save and rebuild our country.
Okay, so that's Rise Mzansi. Let's now speak to Nobuntu Webster, BOSA deputy leader. Nobuntu, thank you very much for your time this morning. A brief introduction to our viewers in terms of your organization and what you stand for.
Good morning and thank you so much for having us, Dudu. Our organization is Build One South Africa, BOSA, and really what we stand for is making sure that power is back in the hands of the people. The way that we've structured ourselves and modeled our party is such that, first of all, we partner with community organizations and work with them to already be starting to effect change in South Africa on the ground. So we have affiliates that we are formally partnered with. They include civil society movements, they include other political parties that we're working with to already start addressing the issues and bringing solutions on the ground. That's the first thing. Secondly, we believe that it's important that South Africans have power back in their hands again to choose their own leaders. So our model is that it's communities who actually choose their leaders and nominate leaders to be on the candidate list for Parliament for 2024. And that is giving back communities and citizens the ability to be able to choose their leaders, because right now, as it stands, because of how the party system and how parties are structured, South Africans don't essentially choose their own leaders. They choose a party, and the parties are the ones who, through their processes, choose leaders. So essentially, if I were to put in a nutshell what we're about, it's power back into the hands of people, and people being the ones who actually run the democracy.
Crystal clear. Xiluva's Bongani Baloyi, good morning to you, sir. A brief introduction to our viewers of your organization and what you stand for.
Thank you so much, and good morning to the colleagues in the studio and those who have connected virtually. Xiluva is a political party born out of the plight of young people and the recognition that young people are bystanders to all the economic participants in this country, bystanders in our body politics, and yet we are the biggest shareholder. In fact, the biggest voting demographic sits between the ages of 18 and 45. However, majority of them are not registered. some who are registered don't even pitch to vote because some claim to characterize it as despondence, and we claim, and our view is that young people are staying home because of lack of options. So having Xiluva as one of the alternatives, one of an option for young people that is youth-led, youth-focused, and wants to actually represent young people and fight for the plight of young people across the country, who majority of them, 60%, are unemployed, they're unemployable. Stats SA tells us that if a young person gets to the age of 30 and they've never been employed, their chances of ever being employable diminish significantly. So in all of this conversation in our country now and potential coalitions, there's no one representing young people and the voice of young people. It happens that we're having these fantastic conversations and speaking about the future of this country and having various permutations about the direction of this country, and the voice of the biggest voting demographic in the biggest population in this country is not represented. And we believe that it's time for young people to stop supporting others and support themselves and build an organization that's pro-young people that will see to it that the plight of young people is resolved in government through lobby, through consultation, through persuasion, and through winning popular vote in the 2024 elections.
Thank you very much. Sure. Thank you very much. Arise SA Mpho Dagada. The same question to you, please. A brief introduction to our viewers and what your organization stands for.
Thank you so much for having me, and good morning to all the viewers. Arise South Africa was born out of an urgent need to rescue South Africa from the forces that are holding it back. We truly believe that this country is the best country in the world. We're young, we're agile, we're focused, we know what we want to do. We leverage the fourth industrial revolution technologies to build Africa into an economic hub for the fourth industrial revolution. We're looking at blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning, forward thinking to make sure that South Africa truly has a chance to rebuild and fix itself. We've looked at unemployment and poverty being shocking states, crime in our country, and we seek to address those not only just by us talking about it, but by using technologies like the artificial intelligence, using technologies like blockchain to stop and to curb these things. And these are practical solutions that we ourselves have already done and piloted, and we want to showcase to the world to say it is so simple to use with technology. What you need is youth, agile leadership, young, fresh minds that will bring in technology and help move our country forward. We also believe that our country has so much untapped potential. When we look at mineral beneficiation, when we look at economic policies, we truly believe that we can change those things by creating employment. And we are a political party that believes in ideas. Ideology is first and ideas more than anything else, dependent on where you were raised or, whether you've been part of the struggle. We truly value ideas. And we always make sure that within our party, we're discussing ideas and solutions on how to fix the country on a daily basis with young people, think tanks and prototypes that will fix our country come 2024.
Thank you very much to all four of our leaders this morning. We're going to be delving deeper into some of the ideas that you have presented in a few moments. Please just do hang 10 for us as we take a short little breather. Hello again. So we take a look at the road ahead to the 2024 general elections in the country, and we speak to new political formations in the political landscape in South Africa. We're joined this morning by Xiluva leader Bongani Baloyi, Arise SA leader Mpho Dagada, Build One South Africa deputy leader Nobuntu Webster, as well as Rise Mzansi chief organizer Makashule Gana. Thank you once again to all our guests. I'd like to go to you, Mr. Baloyi, first in terms of unpacking what it is that you say your party stands for. Yours is a party, you say, is born out of a plight of young people who have by and large been bystanders in their own country. It is oftentimes said nothing for us without us. And so what is it that young people of South Africa have been telling you in your engagements with them? There was a story in the news this week of young people who are selling their birthrights in the form of identity documents, in the form of birth certificates, so that they can get the next hit of Nyaupe or whatever it is. And so if you were to identify one particular department that would champion the needs of those young people based on what they tell you, what is it?
Look, you're quite correct that young people are experiencing the worst of situations as a direct consequence of the socio-economic situation we find ourselves in this country. So there is no one department that we believe can champion the needs of young people, because to respond to the needs of young people, we need to capture the entirety of state to ensure that state in its manifestation through economic development, through social development, education, through various reform projects that the state needs to lead to respond directly to the plight of young people, that responds holistically. So we're quite clear that we will not be a party that will say we only champion or campaign to have social development as an example. I think that would be a severe limitation of our articulation of our program of action. In fact, the program of action that is pro-young people must manifest in the entirety of the state.
Nobuntu, let's come to you, because you mentioned that BOSA is all about giving power to the people, or power back in the hands of the people. You speak of partnering with community organizations and finding the solutions on the ground. In your engagement with various communities, what is it that they're telling the party is top priority for them?
So there's a number of things. I think one of the things that's affecting communities the most is corruption, which has led to a loss of trust in leadership. And so communities are wanting to see people who are leaders that they trust, which is how we came to the model of getting communities to nominate their own leaders. That's the first thing. Secondly, communities are really, really struggling economically. South Africans, more than half of South Africans live below the poverty line, and you can see that, and you're experiencing that when you're in communities and you're experiencing how many people are unemployed. You can look at statistics and you can look at the numbers. We sit at over 40% by the expanded definition, over 60% youth unemployment by the expanded definition. But when you sit with people, these are real people, these are real lives, and you can see the impact in the lives of people. And so that's the second thing that's really, really critical for South Africans. And lastly, which is related to economy and employment, is the issue of education. South Africans are struggling to make use of the education that they have. The education is not relevant to the needs that they have, and the quality of education that we have is not setting up young people to be able to participate in our economy. And then I don't want to leave out the issue of safety and security, because South Africans don't feel safe. So these are the issues that are primarily at the top of the problems South Africans are experiencing. And we've put together a 10-point plan, which has got solutions and a plan on how to address these issues, having consulted with communities and having engaged with communities over the past 6 months.
Mr. Gana, let me come to you, because Rise Mzansi is billing itself as a party or a formation that takes a look at an equal, safe and prosperous South Africa. Nation building has been neglected. How would you characterize the national agenda of South Africa in 2023 and come 2024? What does this unity look like?
So the unity that we see South Africans coming together behind a common vision, not out of hatred or of any organization or anything, but the vision of saving our country. Because one of the things that we see when we interact with communities is that many South Africans aspire to a life where they are able to provide for themselves and their families. Many South Africans aspire to be able to watch us at this particular moment. So even when we talk, they say, you know what, we should not talk of poverty alleviation. We need to be able to say, how do we take South Africans from where they are to a life of a middle class where they can be able to have access to the things that you and I do have access to, and not this be the privilege of the select few in society. The people that we interact with in societies say, you know, we need to find the best leaders in society. Because even when people make the decisions, I'll give you a practical example. When someone starts working and they have a choice to either take their child to a public hospital or a private doctor, when they have the means, they will go to the private doctor, because they believe that the system, the public system, has collapsed. And that's why one of the things that we do stand for, and we will pursue as Rise Mzansi, is that we need to rebuild the public trust in the public provided services. We need to appoint the best people to lead in those institutions, and not people who, for some reasons, were not employable, and the only place where they could find a job is the state. We need to find the best people in the public service. We need to find the best people to lead in the political space. That's why we say, We believe that they are capable, ethical leaders in society. We need to activate them. We see that as our role as Rise Mzansi.
Sure. Mpho Dagada of Arise SA, you speak about artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, how to achieve that in a country where not everybody has equal access to basic things such as data.
To note, I'm currently in a small town called Hendrina here in Mpumalanga, where we've been doing a lot of research and looking at solutions that we can help. And one of the things that I said, I've got an interview, and I asked, where can I get consistent Wi-Fi? And I was told, go to KFC. Now, this is very disappointing because when you look at the rest of the world, we've got 40% growth rate in data happening globally every single year. We've got technologies such as the fourth industrial revolution technologies, big data analytics, machine learning, robotics, quantum computing, biotechnology, additive, 3D printing, nanotechnology, Internet of Things, cyber-physical world. This is where the jobs live. Blockchain technology, driverless vehicles, machine-to-machine communication, and all these technologies is where the jobs are going. Now, a lot of people, when they talk about jobs, when they talk about all these solutions, many of them don't have an understanding of where the world is going and where money has moved. And it's important that if we are truly to fix this country, we need to understand where has jobs and monies moved to, and then start building from then onwards. Things have moved to technological space. And we as young people of Arise South Africa, we have a clear understanding of these technologies. We use them on a daily basis, and we want to deploy them. Now, here in a town like Andrina, you ask me, what will I do for people that don't have access? The first thing, we can shoot up a drone that can give access to the whole town. Or we can put it up on the stratosphere and make sure that it's floating and the whole town can have internet access. Now, the second thing we can do is to equip the libraries with consistent internet based on those drones or whatever technology we're using at that time, and ensure that our young people are getting good education that is online and consistent. Education that will make them competitive and agile with where the world is going, not education that is past or that's not working in the future. Now, one of the other things that we need to look at is who owns the data of the country. We have a huge problem in our country where we don't understand where the problems are because the data is not being collated or owned by South Africa. Facebook actually owns majority of the data in South Africa. It's not the government. We're saying that the problems are starting there, where our government doesn't even know what to do because they don't have the data. In today's day and world where data analytics is the biggest thing, governments all around the world are saying data is the new gold. If you have data, you're able to move your citizens to the next level because you're able to extrapolate that data and use artificial intelligence to solve problems that generally would take very long, but you'll be able to do it very consistently and easily and freely so using the technologies that exist today. So we're saying it's important for us not just to say we'll bring in jobs, but what type of these jobs? What are these jobs? How are we empowering these people to look at these technologies and look at harnessing them? Now, when we look in South Africa, our parliament is shaped with 60-year-olds. That when you speak about data analytics, when you speak about blockchain technology, they don't understand these things. We need to change our parliament into think tanks, where we're bringing young people that are agile, that have got fresh minds, very similar to the eagle you see on our logo. As Arise, we believe we are young, we are fresh, we are bold, and we're courageous like the eagle. And the reason we say this is because South Africa will be fixed by agile young people who are thinkers, not people that are reading political scripts like they've done in the past. It'll be fixed by young people that know how to leverage the fourth industrial revolution technologies that will enable it to make sure that they're human-centric and to help our people advance, because it is of no substance if you're saying you'll solve the problems that exist if you're not looking into the future. A political party should have a vision. And we have a vision for South Africa to say the vision for South Africa becoming the best country in the world is hidden in us empowering our people with technological advancements of the fourth industrial revolution and manufacturing them here within our country. Now, there are those that say this is far-fetched, and we say it's okay. We've done so in our own personal capacities. You know, at Arise South Africa, we have leaders that are leading in nanotechnology, that are leading in blockchain technology internationally.
Thank you very much. I think we've got the point. We've got quite a lot to get through. Maybe let's just give another speaker a chance. Bongani Baloyi, I see you tickled there. Are you of little faith?
No. I'm trying to I'm trying to relate what I'm hearing from my colleague with the lived experience. and the challenges of young people in this country who some still don't have access to water, as an example. We're in Thohoyandou just yesterday, in fact not in Thohoyandou but in Sibasa, in Mpho next to Thohoyandou. And the material circumstances of those young people dictate that you need the holistic response from the government. It's important to have research and development, fund things like your technology for the government to have a comprehensive strategy in how it responds to some of these technological advancements, but to empower their citizens. But you can't base that as the main thing to do. So for me, it was quite interesting to hear the differences in our articulation. But just thinking about the lived experience, which I saw just a few hours ago while I was still in Sibasa in Mpho, in a very rural part of the country. But the type of responses, I think we must appreciate where we are as a country and where we differ fundamentally as Xiluva is that we need to empower young people, and you can't just be on the basis of technology only, because the needs of young people and the needs of South Africans are very much complex. They're interlinked and intertwined with technology, but it's not the point of departure. We still need to resolve very basic things in this country to stabilize things, to get rid of law back into order, our infrastructure protected. I mean, how do you invest in infrastructure, significant infrastructure, when look at our real infrastructure where it is at this point in time? So you need to really claw back the capacity of criminals to undermine the state through the destruction of public and economic infrastructure, which infrastructure enables and propels growth and connectivity, mobility, and a number of those things. So I think that's where we differ at this stage. But as Xiluva, we're quite clear about what we are trying to do. And that means we must capture the state. We must have a big voice in the state as young people. Young people must be represented in all levers of power, in all corridors of power, because the future that we need to craft requires the type of young people and committed people who can actually move this country forward. And I think for us, it's a big advantage as a party. We're already starting to see the growth in our party now. I mean, in deep rural areas, young people are reaching out to us who want to be part of this platform that recognizes that the capacity of young people and the fact that it's young people's turn now who's the biggest voting demographic. So Xiluva is quite committed towards that journey in how we advance our lives, but we need to ensure that we get the popular vote, inspire people, animate our peers first and foremost, to go and register and turn out on days of election, and not just to sit on the side and watch, because everything and anything that we need to do must start to happen on next year on the election day by turning out the majority of our supporters and also animating those who are on the current voters roll, who are registered but not voting, because there's lack of options. And we believe that the option of Xiluva is an option that's a real alternative for the people of this country, mainly young people.
Okay, I'd like for us to take another quick breather, but maybe something for our guests to ponder when we come back for another round is each party's, I guess, political, not political, but economic policy, if you will, and the issue of redress in South Africa, which has been spoken about. I'd like for us to think about that and to speak about that in a few moments. Do stay with us. Hello again. Let's continue our conversation with the new political formations in South Africa in terms of now taking a look at each party's perhaps economic policy. Let's come back into studio and speak to you, Mzansi.
Thanks, Dudu. So the way we look at the economy as Mzansi, we see the role of the state. So the state must play its role. The private sector must play its role. And the reason we say this is that there are things that even if you wish the private sector to invest in, for instance, the rail network, there's a need in this country to expand the rail network. There's a need in this country to have safe, reliable and affordable public transport. Not the private transport that we have that is transporting the public, but the publicly owned transport, the rail, as I was talking about. There needs to be an expansion of the road network. You know, I was in the Eastern Cape, in Lusikisiki and Flagstaff. I mean, like, you see the need to invest. So the communities are not connected because there hasn't been an investment in the road infrastructure. That's why we say we are not seeing the government or the private sector almost competing and seeing it as one is more desirable than the other. Both must be able to play its role. And there's a need, Dudu, there's a need for us to continue to redress the imbalances of the past. Because this is the situation and why Rise Mzansi came to be. There are millions and millions of South Africans who are yet to taste the fruit of democracy. Since 1994, they haven't tasted the fruit. For them, the only thing that democracy is to them is the ability to vote and maybe to criticize the president. But other than that, tangibly, they haven't enjoyed the fruit of democracy. That's why it's important for us, even when we talk of redress, we must think of the millions of South Africans that haven't tasted the fruit of democracy. Actually, what we are dealing with now, it's a situation wherein we have a generation that is more poorer than their parents. And that, for me, is one of the biggest crises, that we have a generation, some of them are no longer young. I mean, they are in their early 40s. They haven't had an opportunity. They have been failed for the last 29 years. Because one of the things that you need to appreciate is that youth is a transitional phase. It's not a permanent state. So what happens if you are no longer youth? And when I was in Tata on Thursday, so someone speaks in a town hall in the People's Manifesto, says, I'm 39 years old. So by the definition of the government, I'm no longer youth. Therefore, whenever there's a new intake, I can't benefit because now I'm over 35. So we are dealing with a situation, Dudu, wherein others will say there's a missing or a lost generation. And that's why what we try to do as Rise Mzansi is to say, how do we best provide solutions for all South Africans? Young people, important, because the future belongs to them. But we must not forget those that have been failed by the system in the last 29 years. They must be part of the solution. We cannot just look at only one component of the population and forget the people that at this present moment they are 35 and above. Because someone who's 33 today, in 2025 they are 35. So if they don't get to benefit in the next 2 years, it means that they are out of the system. We need to have a much more holistic approach to the solutions of the problems that are affecting South Africans.
Nobuntu of Build One South Africa, does the party align itself to the notion of redress in South Africa and economic reform to include all? If it does, what do you perceive has been the stumbling block to achieving this almost 30 years later?
Absolutely we do. And, I think we need to look at 3 areas of economic transformation. As my colleague says, 29 years on, there are many freedoms which many South Africans can say they've not experienced. And of course, economic freedom is right there at the top. One of the issues has been that the efforts of redress have depended quite strongly on the mainstream economy. So when you look at BBBEE, for instance, it's quite dependent on mainstream economy because it speaks to creating opportunity in this private sector that already exists. It does not focus on investing in other economies in this country. So first of all, we're very focused on ensuring that we're investing in the township economy. So our 10-point plan outlines investment into an establishment of township special economic zones, where we're then able to stimulate township economies and create new jobs in the township. One of the issues we face in South Africa is that we have people who have to travel. As South Africans, we have to travel to work. You travel to where work is, instead of us having stimulated work where we live. That has many, many implications, including family. It affects family, it affects society. When someone is leaving home at 4 a.m. in the morning to go to work, leaving their children at 4 a.m. in the morning to go to work, coming back at 7, 8 o'clock, they haven't seen their children. Not only are we talking about their money being spent on travel, which means that economically that person is compromised, but we're also speaking about the quality of life that a family and that a society has when people who are parents and leaders in households are not there, not available to be there because they're out looking for work. So one of the issues has been that there's been a focus on mainstream economy and not enough intentional investment into township economies, in developing and stimulating work and employment in township economies. Secondly, we have to look at the fact that we often talk about black tax. You know, I came to hate the term because it sounded like a burden that black people have, but in truth, it actually really is. Yes, while we might do it out of Ubuntu, and while we might do it as a responsibility that we take on, it is an economic burden that is a function of our history, of apartheid, and of our economic past. And we need to take those things into consideration. One of the offers that is on our 10-point plan is to give young professionals a tax holiday at the beginning of their careers during entry level, because that then gives them the opportunity to invest back into the family, to uplift others in the family, without having the pressure of also having to pay tax and have a bottom line for themselves. That really means that it's difficult for them to survive, let alone to progress and to move on in their lives. Lastly, we as part of our 10-point plan, we have entrepreneurship grants, which we're affording to graduates out of matric or out of TVETs and universities. And the reason for that is that young people in this country need to be able to be given the opportunity for ownership. You cannot have transformation without ownership. You cannot have transformation that only speaks of incorporating South Africans into an already existing economy, which, as I've said, just does not have the capacity to not only absorb everybody into employment, but it also doesn't have the capacity to give more people ownership. So it's important that young people have that opportunity through those entrepreneurship grants to be able to get a step up in owning their own businesses and being able to employ. Because like I say,
Nobuntu.
Ownership, you can't...
Yeah, thank you very much. I think point well made. So we come to Xiluva's Bongani Baloyi. In a country where we're still not where we need to be with the land question, we've maintained apartheid salaries, higher education is still inaccessible for a majority of people. What has been your understanding of why redress has been slow in South Africa and the economic transformation has not happened at the pace at which a number of people would have expected it to happen?
Look, thank you so much. I think BEE, in its manifestation and its limitations, has given birth to those who have been able to access these opportunities, but on the basis primarily of their proximity to persons in power. So if we're to carefully sit and analyze those who are billionaires, multimillionaires now, and their proximity to a political party which is in power, you'd find that majority of them there's a strong aligning with that. So it firstly speaks to the first limitation of that manifestation of the BEE, because it helped those who are close to those in power, as opposed to majority of South Africans who really need to find manifest space in the economic transactions in this country. But equally, what has been clear to me, which is something that's very rarely spoken about, is the state reneging on its ability to ruthlessly implement issues of transformation by taking the entirety of state, including state funding instruments such as your PIC, your various other funding instruments, to direct that type of finances and business towards building new industries and establishing new economic nodes and centers in areas where there were not enough economic transactions. And also nothing has led this investment to any new state, new SOEs that's able to carry and absorb the bulk of labor, whether young people and so forth. So state has really not been able to move. And I say this judging against what the apartheid government was able to do when it took over, how it absorbed Afrikaners into the state, equally created and funded new SOEs and the multimillionaires who are afforded the support of state. So that did not happen at the scale that it should have happened. And unfortunately for us, our redress, we often define redress in terms of economic definition, but we don't actually speak about access to basic government goods of water, electricity, sanitation, and various others as well. And you actually still see that people still suffer spatial inequalities today, which have been left to perpetuate, where you find the poorest of the poor who live in the peripheries. So when you ask a question about economic inclusion, just opposed to a lived reality today of someone who lives in the periphery who must wake up at 4 o'clock just to go and be a garden boy elsewhere. I mean, this is the difficulties and the complexity of resolving to South African challenges. But I must mention one thing, and just responding to what my colleague Gana has said, we are quite clear that young people are the main shareholders of this country. We reject holistically and totally the notion that the future belongs to young people. Our firmly belief is that now is the time for young people. No one is going to tell us in the future young people are going to lead and etc. Those young people who are able and competent to lead now will lead now and ensure that we implement the type of changes we want in our country, not wait for anybody to give us any of the permission to move forward or do whatever. Young people are disenfranchised. Young people are economic migrants. We are just looking at what's happening and being observers. And we won't be told that we must wait for this or do that. If we resolve the issues of young people, which affect everybody in this country, trust me, you'll see a very fundamentally different country in South Africa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baloyi, sir. Mr. Dagada of Arise SA, the same question to you very shortly for us, please.
Thank you. Quick one. I just want to address. I heard Bongani with the Smurf say that people in Thayando want water. The youth in Thayando want water. I'm from Thayando, and the youth in Thayando do not want water. I mean, he's 36 years old. He's above the youth rate, so maybe some things might miss him. But the youth are not interested in water. The youth are interested in making sure that they participate globally as leaders within the economies. They are tired of just getting 350 grants. The youth actually want a chance at this life. Now, when we talk about leadership is about vision. If the vision is just water, then the problem is that Dubai fixed the water problem while the skyscraper was going up. So you're able to do both. When we speak of rail, I mean, it's great, but South Africa has enough capacity to build aeroplanes. We have every single mineral that's needed to build and manufacture aeroplanes on our own. We can 3D print aeroplanes. Why are we not talking about aeroplanes? Why are we not talking about airports? Will we only focus on rail forever and road forever? When we talk about the youth, a lot of people like to think that we're saying that the older generation is not included. No, the youth is the focal point. The older generation is very much included. We truly believe in private and public partnership, where we're finding that young people be trained in vocational training, technical colleges, to help them ensure that they're able to contribute in the state. We want to do away with the tender system. The tender system has not worked for our people. It's only enriched a few, and even in that enrichment, they still don't have any skill transfer or know-how as to how to actually build proper businesses. We want to start working with young entrepreneurs, partnering them with the state, and making sure that they're actually capable to do these things, so that people are not talking about funding as an issue. You've got the state there to assist you. Let young think tanks actually come in. We also want to make sure that we look at manufacturing, because we've got all the mineral resources in our country. So why not use manufacturing to fix this? And when we talk about business and we talk about fixing certain things in business,
and there goes the network. You did say that you have to.
We want to lower down the tax rate on business. That lower those taxes to make sure that the people are actually able to contribute. We also want to make sure that the government funding for businesses is aligned with policies that will actually ensure that the government will be helpful. And we want to make sure that we're funding young people. From the ages of 18, we're developing young entrepreneurs that will be able to solve many of these solutions.
Thank you very much. I know we run
out of time, so I'll end it there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Xiluva, Build on South Africa, Arise South Africa, and Rise Mzansi. A big thank you to all the representatives for your time this morning.